live in my house and pay nothing, and they didn't pay anything for 4 years, I feel like you're invading my personal space, and I would prefer it if you were able to find your own place to live. Now that gave me more confidence than any thinking about being confident could ever give me. And that allowed me to do the things like the things I have to do now with builders, or whoever it might be. So thinking about, do I wait or do I just do it? Do I go out there and do some of these things, knowing that if I do it in the right way, I'll get the right result, and therefore will that give me the confidence that I need, particularly when those situations are particularly challenging and really quite difficult as well. So here are some techniques that we can use. I'll just use one. You might have picked it up, the one I just described there. But we're going to talk about a number of techniques. Fogging is a technique that we can use. Fogging is great because you can't hurt the fog. That's what it's about. You cannot hurt the fog. It's like an object hitting the fog. It is a great way to deal with unjust or harsh criticism. It's a great way to deal with people who say something that has some element of truth, but they perhaps extrapolated that at all. And it's where we accept what the person is saying, and then you fog the answer. So you communicate the answer in a fogging way. Here are some examples. You're always late. You're always late. A fogging response would be, yes, you're right. Sometimes I am late. Or yes, you're right, I was late today. But of course, is everyone always late? Sometimes. But in this case, let's say it's you. And you're not always late. Sometimes we are late, but sometimes we're not. So yes, you're right, I am sometimes late. Or yes, you're right, I was late today. So we can't hurt the fog. So we agree. We agree in part, sometimes. We agree in principle. I can see why you would think that particular way. Or we agree in essence. So we just agree generally and say, yes, you're right. Sometimes that is the case, the probability of the situation. So we agree in part, we agree in principle, we agree in probability. Let me give you some more examples. What you did there was silly. That behavior was very silly. Yes, I can see why you would think it was silly. You're not saying it was silly, or it wasn't, which is the combative response. Or, of course, you're not saying nothing. You're not replying. You're not saying nothing at all. You're not doing nothing to respond. So in one stage, the combative response, I'm not late. I'm not always late. That behavior wasn't silly. That's very aggressive. That's very combative. And, of course, where does that end up when we respond to someone like that? Where does that go? Argument. That's exactly what happens. We end up in an argument and we destroy the relationship that we could have actually had with this person. Yeah? And maybe someone quite important in our working life or whatever it might be. So we think about a way that actually diffuses the issue, and at the same time so that you retain some integrity and self-respect. Because you're dealing with the issue, you're saying, okay, I can see why you would think that. Or yes, you're probably right. Or maybe sometimes that's the case. So we think about using fog to be able to respond to someone. Can anyone think of a situation where you received unjust or harsh criticism, where perhaps you felt that this was unfair? So what they were saying or how they were communicating to you was unfair. Who's got an example? But thank you.
So if someone says, why can't you love me this simple task?
Great. Yeah, that's a great example. So I guess you can think about it and say something like, yes, I can see why you would think it would only take 5 minutes. And from my point of view, this is what I'm thinking. we put our case forward. Or we could perhaps ask some questions. Maybe something like, what is it about this task that makes you think it's simple? Well, I guess it's how you put it forward. So when I say these sorts of things, when I use these fogging statements and say, what is it about this task that makes you think it's simple? I'd like you to think about analysing my tone of voice and my body language. How would you describe my tone of voice? What is it about this task that makes you think it's simple? Sounds angry? Okay. Yeah. What is it about this task that makes you think it's simple? It's more angry. Or versus this. Okay. What's simple? So, yeah, absolutely. So what we have is, what is it about this task that makes you think it's simple, is a neutral tone of voice. It's neutral. I'm direct, I'm very direct because I'm dealing with the issue, but it's in a neutral way. It's not highly emotional and aggressive. It's not highly passive, where I'm right balance. Trying to get the right balance. Now, it may come across, even the speaker and everything, a bit harsher. So fair enough. But we want to try and think about neutral body language, neutral tone of voice. So communicating what you want to communicate, and communicate that in a confident and direct way. Sometimes it's helpful about thinking about being very firm on the issue, but very fair on the person. So there's nothing in this message that's saying, you have no idea what it's like to be in my shoes. Yeah? You don't know the fact that I have all these other things on my plate. You know? For you, it might be simple, but for me, this is my first job. All those things are actually a much more combative way. What is it? Or from your perspective, how might it be simple for you, but not so simple for me? So where do you think we're different? Or how do you think we might be different? So we can think about using our fogging in those situations. Who's got another example? Unjust, harsh criticism. Thank you.
Yeah, I got a question for boss. Do you want to work with us
Or not? Yeah.
It's really,
Yeah, what did you say?
it's really uncomfortable, and I say, yes, you do, but you do not have nothing to say.
Yes.
Really want
Yes. And when you said to your boss, yes, I do, but I don't have enough training, how did your boss respond?
yeah, you just go with it. Hey, it's fine with it, and
Yeah.
goodbye.
Yeah, good. Absolutely. You ask for what you want. Yeah. Now it's interesting to sort of backtrack. What led you and your boss to be in that situation? What could you have done earlier? Yeah. Well, and there's some challenges with saying what you should and shouldn't have done in terms of how that affects you. But it's interesting about thinking about being assertive earlier and asking for what you want. What would really help me here is if I could get some training on this particular thing. Rather than waiting till, because of course when he's saying that, she's saying that, there's doubt in their mind. There's confusion. And perhaps they didn't say it in the right way. And it's quite confrontational, but it sounds like you dealt with that quite well. One thing to think about when we're assertive is to remove the word but from our language. If we're going to be assertive, why would we want to remove the word but? It's negative, absolutely. It's negative and it negates. So yes, I would really like to stay, and what would help me is if you could provide this training, or if I could access this particular training, or if I could spend some time with you, or whatever it might be. So replacing our buts with ands, or sometimes just a full stop. Yes, I want to stay. I will need some training. So two separate sentences rather than joining them with the but, which of course negates and actually says to the person, I'm not really sure I want to stay here anymore. So little simple things like this ensure that people respect us and treat us with a bit more respect, the respect that we actually deserve as well. Thank you. You are. Right. What do you think? Okay. Indeed, but is that the point? Yes. Yes.
The person is alright, I mean, friendly to you, then you could be, like, otherwise, you could come across as aggressive.
Or you could come across as someone who's a welcome man and is willing to be walked over. So there are consequences. So there are risks, absolutely, without a doubt. Something else to think about here would be, and maybe another technique might be useful, but where we are seeing people impacted by stereotypes. Yeah? So a classic one I get is, when I got it last year, I went to look at an open house. And I walked into the house, walked up the stairs, and the real estate person met me at the top of the stairs. And, they want to build a relationship because they feel that you're going to, buy. So they want to connect with you. And he said, "Oh, hello, how are you? Are you familiar with the location in the area? What do you think of the house?" That sort of thing. And I responded. And then he turned around and said, "So where are you from?" And I said, "I'm Irish." And his response was, to be sure. Now, again, you can respond to something like that in a humorous way, but when you actually think about it, that's racial profiling and harassment. So, technically, in terms of a definition, someone who is mimicking your accent or your body language gestures or using a cultural stereotype on you, under the law, it actually is racism. And of course, this is an opportunity where we can deal with that and communicate how we feel.